let's start. So Fibonacci and other retracement levels. And why do I say other retracement levels? Of course, Fibonacci levels are the most famous, but they are not the only ones. And you will see what I mean. These levels are basically support and resistance levels. You know, we are here using a number percentage ratios relative to the previous move. Okay, we see, for example, the market moved 300 pips in the direction of the main trend, then started falling. Here begins the guessing. Okay, where will this counter trend move stop, and when will it give us the opportunity to get in the market? And before I start talking about this, I wanted to ask you, when I came back from the break, I wanted to ask you, what kind of music do you listen to when you trade? You know, I had this question on my mind during the break, and I really want to know. So if you care to let me know, please leave your comments, and I will be reading them. For me, I always like to listen to something full of energy, you know, dance music, hard and heavy music, something like that. If you have seen The Big Short, that it's a great movie about the financial crisis of 2008, which started, of course, in the housing sector of the United States. And during that time, most people lost a lot of money, even banks, even investment funds, even corporations. A lot of people lost their jobs. It was a very hard time, very bad time for the financial markets and for almost everybody, really. It was, some people describe it as the worst thing that happened since 1929. And you know, of course, in 1929, the recession that the United States and the world saw was almost unbelievable. And since then, nothing as harsh as the crisis that we saw in 2008 was seen. Of course, there were ups and downs, there were some hard times, but 2008 was the worst thing that happened in about 80 years to the financial and investment world. Still, in that very hard environment, some people managed to make money. One of the geniuses who did was Dr. Michael Burry, I think that's how his name is pronounced, who was managing a fund for his clients in the hundreds of millions, and or probably a little bit more than that. And he saw this coming, so he made a huge bet. He went to the biggest banks and he said, I want to bet on the fall of the American housing market. They said, are you crazy? Because nobody bets on that. There's not even an instrument to bet on the falling housing market in the United States. That was the case in 2008. So he asked these banks to design an instrument for him that makes him money if the housing market collapses. And they said, of course, we'll give you that opportunity, because if it does not, it will be the bank or the banks who are making the money from his pocket, from his fund. So they said, of course, and they laughed at him, and they were extremely happy to offer him this instrument. But who laughed in the end? Of course, it was Dr. Burry. He made a huge profit on the financial crisis 2008. And why I'm talking about this? It was the music, because in the movie he is always playing. Sometimes he plays the drums, and sometimes he listens to real hard and heavy music. And I think that's the kind of music that suits the market most. I'm a big fan of hard and heavy music. I listen to almost everything, you know, everything. R&B, hip hop, dance music, pop, slow, even meditation music at the end of a long day. I listen to everything. But when I'm working, I want that kind of maybe dance music, trance music, hard, heavy, something like that, something with energy. It makes you feel the energy of the market, and it goes along very well with the market. So Nick, of course I have the rock soul in me. Bro, I listen to hard and heavy music all the time. Yeah, Julie, it is the rock spirit. Nick, you listen to metal. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's great, man. That's another thing in common between you and me. And just the other day, I was lucky to meet this guy from Tunisia who came to me on Facebook and he said, "It's a pleasure to meet you. I saw your work online and it's great to finally talk to you." I said, "It's a pleasure is mine." And he requested a friendship and I added him as a friend. And when I opened his page, I was shocked. What a great guitar player he is, and he plays hard and heavy music. So I immediately sent him a message. I said, "Bro, you are a trader, you are interested in financial markets, and you love hard and heavy music. That's a great combination." And we've been talking a lot since then. Hip hop, Pro Jack, yeah, hip hop is great. Hip hop. The thing I like about hip hop is that it talks about money a lot. Just like the financial markets. I made this, I made that, I made a G today, something like that. So it's just like the same kind of spirit. Hip hop artists are always bragging about making money, and we are in the financial market to make money. That's the number one reason. It's not the only reason, but that's the number one reason, definitely for 90% of the people. And Oliver is playing it on the pop side of music. That's great. That's great, guys. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, let's continue after such a friendly and delightful discussion. Thank you very much for being a part of it. And let's continue with today's technique. So, the percentage or ratio levels or retracement levels, call them anything you want, are basically support and resistance levels. The main idea is that when the price moves against the trend, it sometimes or a lot of times stops very close to one of these levels, and then the main trend resumes again. This is not a new idea, of course. A lot of people notice that since the beginning of time for the financial market analysis. You may know this man as the father of technical analysis, and indeed he is Charles Henry Dow. The Dow Jones index that people are still following to this day. He is the man behind it. He wrote a lot of articles in the late 19th century. That's more than 100 years ago. And he talked about his opinion of the market, how to analyze the market, how to read the signs of the market. And he became the father of technical analysis in the eye of many people, including yours truly. Mr. Dow talked about the 1/3 and the 2/3. These were the levels that he talked about. He did not even mention the percentage itself. He said the corrective moves usually terminate around the 1/3 mark of the previous move or the 2/3 mark of the previous move. That means if the market goes up 100 points, let's keep the numbers simple for calculations, it could drop like 33 pips and then move higher again, or 66 pips and move higher again, or relatively close to that. Okay. But of course, Mr. Dow was not the only person to talk about it. Jesse Livermore is a legend for traders. This man made so much money and he was so successful in predicting market moves. And for Mr. Livermore, the 50% level is the level that he talked about several times and many times. And he believed that the market stops around half, but it stops after retracing around half of the previous move. And then the next move in the direction of the main trend resumes and gives you a great opportunity to make money. That was his stance on the subject. Another person who And I'm sorry for the quality of these pictures. You know, these people lived some of them 100 years ago, some of them more than 100 years ago. So the quality of the pictures is a little bit not satisfying. I apologize for that, but these are the best pictures that I could find online for them. Ralph Nelson Eliot. You may know this man for being the genius behind the wave principle. He called it the wave principle. Traders now call it Eliot wave because he's the one that came up with the idea. So we always remind ourselves that it's Eliot waves, but according to him, it is called the wave principle. Okay, he talked about the 61.8 level and the 32.2 level, and also he mentioned the half, just like Livermore, but he focused most on these numbers, the Fibonacci numbers. These, among all the retracement levels that you have seen on the screen right now, 5 to be exact, only these are Fibonacci numbers. You know, Fibonacci was a trader, right? Can anybody tell me what market did Fibonacci trade in the comment section? Fibonacci was not a trader, of course. He lived centuries ago. I don't think there were any financial markets when he was alive, but he is a very famous mathematician, and he has this sequence where every number is equal to the previous two numbers. Sorry about that. So he starts with 1, and the second number is 1. We have nothing to add to the 1, so 1, 1, and then we can start adding the previous two numbers together. 1 and 1 is 2, so 1, 1, 2. 2 and 1 is 3, 3 and 2 is 5, and so on. This sequence has a lot of mathematical value, but to us as traders, we focus on the fact that as you go on with this sequence, the ratio of the number to the next one is 61.8%. The ratio of the number to the number just before it is 1.618. So after a lot of study of the market, a lot of pioneers, like the people on the screen, agree that there are some ratios that govern the corrective moves. You know, the market moves in the direction of the main trend, and then it retraces. This retracement is the part that we are focusing on here. Sometimes it's 50% of the previous moves, 61.8% of the previous moves, and so on. Okay, this section would not be complete without some bragging, and please allow me to do so. You have seen 3 unbelievable pioneers on the screen. In no way the 4th person that will appear in front of you is comparing himself to them, but still he is also a discoverer of a set of retracement levels that he thinks has a lot of value. This person is Monter Faji, and this is an old pic, obviously. This pic from 2009 when I was writing for Investingcom as an analyst there. And they asked me for a picture, and this was the picture I sent them. That was the first time my analysis was published online in 2009 for Investing.com, and I cannot even begin to describe how I felt when they told me that they will be translating my analysis into 15 languages. And I used to open the other languages, you know, the editions. They have like a Russian edition, Japanese edition, Portuguese edition, German edition, you know, in addition to the Arabic and English sites, which I was writing for at the time. And I see my picture or see my analysis there, and I feel like I am the king of the world. So the picture brings so much memories. And I sure had much more hair back then, much more black hair. So to me, of course, the basis that Eliot, Mr. Ralph Nelson Eliot, used in order to justify the 62% is that the market, according to him, moves in 5s and 3s. So it's a 5 move in the direction of the trend. then 3 against it. 3 divided by 5 is almost 62%. It's 60, of course, but he said that this wave count justifies using the Fibonacci number 61.8%. To me, I have studied the market for so many years, and I love just focusing on market, trying to read it, and find things that are not there in books that I have read. I find amazing pleasure in doing so, and during such adventures, let me say, I came to believe that sometimes the market moves in 7 waves and not in 5. Of course, Eliot said that sometimes the B wave can reach higher than the 5th wave, which makes it, of course, a 7. But he did not admit that it's a 7. He said, no, this is an irregular corrective move. So it should be 5 and not 7. This is not the norm. But to me, I think that there is a lot to support the idea that the market move in 7 moves or 7 waves and not 5. Sometimes 7, of course, not all the time. So with that, I came to experiment with retracement levels that use the number 7. So 1 divided by 7, 2 divided by 7, 3 divided by 7, and so on. And I was stunned to see that 5 divided by 7, of course, Eliot used 5 divided by 8, and he got 61% or 62%. 5 divided by 7 is 71.4. And 4 divided by 7 is 57%, 6 divided by 7 is 85%, and I sometimes find these retracement levels to be extremely magical, but the queen of all what I call these levels the merger levels, the queen of all merger levels is 71%. Of course, as an analyst who obeys the code of ethics for the CMT, I have to report any new ideas. I would not say discovery, but any new ideas that the analysts find should report about them. And I am proud to say that I'm in the process, because I have talked to a publishing house and I asked about the possibility of publishing a book that talks about new retracement levels that are not talked about in any other book. Of course, we can go back. Here we can see 33%, 66%, 50%, 61%, 38%. I am hoping that I will be the man who will add to this list with my 57%, 71%, and 85%, especially the 71%. Okay, so enough bragging. Let's continue with the technique hour.